All right, hey guys, Jerry from Showtime Audio. So we have Giuliano's beautiful Chevelle. We're doing a big system upgrade. So we are doing a loud system. So a lot of pro audio, 412s, battery, center console with a 10-inch monitor, power windows, power locks, I mean, the works. So right now we're doing our first is obviously we do our check-in and we do all our protection. So we protect the car, we have a trickle on the battery. Hondo is doing disassembly. So the main thing we usually do first is we disassemble the whole vehicle, kind of so that we can get a game plan going and start making some of the parts and just verify that what we had in mind will actually work, right? Because a lot of times you can design a great system, but if it doesn't fit the car or doesn't fit the application, we have to make some adjustments. So we want to know all those adjustments in the beginning so that we're not trying to do them at the end right before we're supposed to deliver the car. If we have any issues, we want to run into them up front so that we can deal with them and address it. And this is the amp rack. So Hondo did on that vehicle, you have the floor has like a big dent in it where the differential travels up into if the car squats down. So in order to get our amps and mounted and flush and looking really nice, he built this rack. Now the rack obviously clears that hump, right? And then also clears it this way. But basically it gives us a nice flat floor to be able to mount all the equipment. This is a pocket that he built for the battery. So we have a pretty big size battery, an excess power battery that's going to live in here, but the floor is still raised in this area. So he had to build this pocket in order for the battery to drop in and sit square. So now he's going to carpet it and we're going to pre-wire it and then we'll throw it in the car. He notched for the wires. So the wires come through the sheet metal and will go here, through the sheet metal and come here. And then also they can come from under here. So he just, it's one of those, again, planning it out, thinking about it, and just kind of setting it up in a way so that we have the best chance of success. And this is we told you, this is a bit of a loud project for us. So it's a classic car, but we're putting in a really, really loud stereo. So a lot of pro audio, a lot of really loud equipment. Now, bad part is whoever did the car before us did not do the greatest job in the world. So they built this really cool rear deck with this, the tweed in it and the stitching and everything. And then they cut the holes out with like their left foot or something and a butter knife. I'm not sure what happened, and that was a 6x9. So we can't leave that alone. And yeah, but we don't want to redo the rear deck because we would have to resource this material and also do the stitching. So in order to do that, we built these pods. So these pods will now hold our pro audio gear. And we're gonna do a press grill. And once it's mounted, obviously, this will be black vinyl, so it'll look like an extension of this. And then we'll have a press grill, so it'll kind of blend in. So it'll look as if it came with the vehicle. Again, no matter if we're doing pro audio, SQ, whatever we're doing, we want it to look as if it came with the car. So if you notice, we followed the lines of the car. So we follow this line, this line, this line, and this line. So that's what gives us this shape. So basically think of this entire shape shrunk down. So what that does is it makes the part look as if it belongs to the car because it's following the lines and the language of the car. If we just did a square or a circle or some other weird shape, if you ever had the little square, circle, triangle test, you would know that they don't fit, right? So visually, it also doesn't fit. If you have a certain shape and you put another shape, visually, it will look out of place. And you won't know why, but you'll just know that it doesn't look right. And it's because your brain knows it doesn't fit, right? So this way, it looks as if it fits. So again, we're doing it a little different. It's a loud vehicle, but we still want to do it at a very high level. So normally they would build the speakers and the tweeters in the side of the consoles, and they would just shoot out. Not a huge fan of that, right? Because the tweeters are really low, so you're not getting a ton of output. So what we did instead is we made these plates that mimic the original cutout on the dash. The dash has these perforations that where the original speaker, it's a 4x6, would have gone. So what we did is we built this cover plate, and it's gonna cover those perforations. This is gonna be covered in grill cloth. It's not done yet, but it'll be covered in grill cloth. And then this will mount over those perforations, and it will mount this high output tweeter flush in the dash. So now that tweeter will fire off the dash and give us a lot more highs than if it's down low just firing out at the door panels, right? So it's gonna be up high and firing off the windshield, so it should just be ridiculous. So this is the rear pod. So again, we told you that the rear deck was butchered really badly. We showed you how messed up they cut it. So we fixed the opening, and then we created these pods, which will have a press grill that will hide all this, so it'll look like if it came with the vehicle. So this pod, obviously, Honda vinyled it, and then check out the wiring, right? So he pre-wired it, put the capacitor on the tweeter, and then made this connector so that if we ever have to service it, we can literally just unplug the connector and replace whatever we got to replace without having to disassemble the entire vehicle. It's literally just making this pod serviceable itself. But again, just making it look as if it could have came with the vehicle. Wow. So we're doing 412s in the trunk of a Chevelle. Not the easiest thing to do. So the opening is not wide enough to get the box in there. So what we have to do in order to get the box in the car and to get the correct airspace, we have to split the enclosure in two. So this is actually two enclosures. So there's a left and a right. So the way they go in is you drop it in, put the one in, drop it in, put the second one in, and then they're bolted together. Nobody's taking this thing. Let's just put it that way. I mean, unless they got a ton of time on their hands. But also wanted to show you, look at how intricate. So this is the trunk hinges right here. So the trunk hinges actually clear this spot here. That's why all this design work, you'll see it once it's in the car. It'll make a little bit more sense. But also want to show you the inside. I mean, if you just look and see how complicated that is. And then we also have a giant window brace. So it's braced here by the wall, braced here by this wall, and then between these two drivers, we want to brace it as well. So everywhere that there's a long span, we want to put in a brace that helps stiffen up the front of the enclosure and give us better control so that the box doesn't resonate. All right, so let's start up front. So this is the wiring. So as you can see, all our stuff is braided, heat shrunk, labeled. This is our breaker. So this is a giant circuit breaker, much bigger than you're used to us seeing, but we're running way more power than we typically do. These are actually used in marine applications. They're used in like yachts and giant commercial ships, things like that. It is a big honking breaker. You can tell by the size of the lugs in the terminals. And then this is the reset right here. So you have this, so that's disconnected. So now the rear battery and the rear system is completely isolated from the vehicle. To turn it back on, you just put it right back. So now we also did a big 3 upgrade. So this is a 1-aught power coming off of the alternator. This is the factory charging cable. See that thing? I don't know, well here. See that thing? That's the factory charging cable. Horrible. I mean, you're not gonna get anything through that. The way you want to think about it is like trying to drink a McDonald's milkshake, a thick McDonald's milkshake through a coffee straw. Good luck. You know, you're gonna probably get a little bit of ice cream, but your face is gonna be all red. Head's gonna want to explode. Don't do it, right? Now, if you put the big like milkshake style straw, a bigger wire straw, if you will, you can get more power or more current through it than you can the coffee straw, right? Coffee straw factory, okay? We also upgrade the ground. So this is a 1/0 ground to the case of the alternator so that we make sure that the alternator, we have power and ground. Ground is super important. We see a lot of times where shops or people run a 1/0 power and then run like the tiniest ground or they leave the stock ground. Electricity is a circle. It's a circle. And so you need the entire circuit to be the proper gauge. Otherwise, it's kind of defeating the purpose. So, and then lastly, we did a frame ground. If you can see that frame ground right there. That gives us the best possible shot. Now, eventually he is gonna have to run a bigger alternator, but this is the stage 1, but it's all set up and ready to go so that when he does do that, it's just a matter of dropping in the alternator. All the wiring is done. So now, typically on these cars, build a console and the speakers, the mid-bass driver and the tweeter are on the side of the console where the mid-bass is here and the tweeter's here. Now, I get that on a lot of cars because there's just physically no space to put a tweeter or there's no space to put the mids, right? And also because it's much easier to fab it into something that you're already building than to do it the other way. But your ankles don't hear so hot. So to me, I'd rather have the speakers and the kicks aimed at the driver and the tweeters as high as possible aimed at the driver, bouncing off the windshield in this case, to get the best possible sound. Now, a mid-range, it doesn't matter as much if it's aimed at you because it's more omnidirectional, but the tweeters are definitely directional. A tweeter is like, the best way you can think about it, a tweeter is like, if you've ever had a flashlight that's really narrow versus a flashlight that's really wide, the mid-ranges, they're really wide. The tweeters are really narrow. So basically what that means is that you basically need to have the tweeter kind of pointed at you to get the most out of it. If you move out of the beam of light, the sound, you don't hear the tweeter as well. Now, to be fair, this is like high output style system. You're gonna hear it regardless. And that's why they can get away with putting the tweeters down there. They are so goofy loud, you're gonna hear the damn things no matter what. But we like to get the most out of everything that we do. We want the client to get everything that they paid for. We talk about this a lot, not half of what they paid for or a quarter or whatever. So what we did as far as the tweeters is we built these acrylic plates, which are countersunk, and we'll show you some video of that. And the tweeter actually lives in the dash now. The nice thing about that is that compression driver is firing off the windshield and creating like a horn effect. So now it's louder. Think about it, compression driver is the tweeter and then it has almost like a cone or a bevel. Now it has another one. So I mean, it's just these things are goofy loud. The other nice thing about getting the most out of what you paid for is you need less gear. So in a lot of cases, I've seen where it's 4 6.5s, 4 tweeters, 4 6.5s, 4 tweeters. But again, if they're not installed properly, you're getting half of the output out of the equipment. So in essence, it's the same as having 2 6.5s and 2 tweeters installed properly versus 4 6.5s and 4 tweeters installed incorrectly. I don't know if that makes sense, but this is what we ended up doing. So we built a custom console for the client. He wanted to go with this 10-inch radio, but another thing that we did a little different is typically in the car, if you notice, it's slight, but the dash is pitched slightly towards the driver, okay? So in a typical situation when they build a console, because the radio is, but the dash is crooked. So I have an issue with symmetry and things being crooked. So we built the console to match the dash and basically to continue this line. We also kind of followed the pitch of this panel. So it kind of looks as if it came that way and kind of flows together, right? So actually here, you have the screen, pair of cup holders. Here's our base knob with our clip light. So this is our power light and our clip light. We added a full power window kit. This power window kit is amazing. It's actually from a company called New Relic. They make the window regulators, but they are the beefiest window regulators you've seen. There's a lot of kits out there, even the factory power window kits that are not built to the level that these are built to. They work really well. They're fast, they're strong, and we did all the way around. And we opted for having the switches here. So this is the original style switches, which normally would live here. But since we're building a console, you can control every one of them from right here. Other cool thing is for the radio supports USB as well as HDMI. So you can plug in HDMI and play videos or mirror your phone on the screen. It just really allows you to a lot of functionality. So just turn this on real quick. So our amps are on. There's our power light, right? Let me turn this down before it scares the Jesus out of us. Okay, so there's our power light, and then this is our clip light. If we start clipping, that light will flash. Now clipping is basically means you're shorting the amp. You're in essence driving it to hard. You want to avoid that. But this is nice because it tells you if you're clipping your amp. There's the radio, pretty straightforward. I like it only because it kind of looks the part, especially in this car. Obviously it's an older car, but it has modern technology, but we try to make it look as if it could have came with the car. And that's why we ended up going with this deck in particular, because especially when it's off, it has like this satin finish and it's not a bunch of buttons, and it just looks kind of like it fits. So the other thing that we did do is, again, a lot of times we try to future-proof things. So even though we didn't do the side speakers, we built these panels, but these panels are magnetic. So if you can see, I don't know if you heard that snap. Let me pop it off, right? So you pop it off, and then it just snaps right back into place. Both sides are like that. It's serviceability and future-proofing, right? So like if the client ever decides he wants to change the look of the sides, he wants to add LED lighting, he wants to add a set of 6.5s and a tweeter in, more speakers, all that, these panels can be removed, modified, or completely redesigned and then reinstalled. The other thing that's different is, I don't know if you can see that, but that console is bolted to the vehicle. A lot of times the consoles are just kind of shoved in there and just kind of floating around in there. We don't like that. We want it to be functional and bolted to the vehicle, so it is. It's actually physically bolted to the car. So originally the client had these 3 gauges just sitting here. They were screwed to the dash. It's a typical panel you see in a lot of these older cars. And then they had a giant tack that was just chilling right here, right? So what we ended up doing, this is where the radio would normally live. So what we ended up doing is we laser cut this filler plate, and now we have the 3 gauges, and we're gonna have a tack. We actually found a tack that's the right size, but now all your gauges will live here instead of just kind of bolted to the dash, hanging on the side, and you'll have everything nice and neat in the dash. So what we did is we ended up ordering new kicks and added the mid-bass drivers to those kicks. We prefer it on the side of the console, so the sound is actually traveling towards you as opposed to away from you. And that's the easiest way to do it and still keep it functional. Keeping with the theme, we'll show you some video, but somebody had been in here before us and put in a set of 6x9s, and they cut them with like a butter knife and their left foot because it was pretty bad. So what we ended up having to do is we built these pods and pressed these grills. So these grills are pressed on a 20-ton press to get this shape, and then we grill cloth it so that it looks like it could have been from that period, right? But there's a 6.5 and a compression tweeter in there as well, both sides. And now it's nice, it's clean, it's bolted, and we even cleaned up the openings so that if you did take that off, it looks nice, right? So we're very particular on the back of the things, the behind the scenes looking as good as the front, because how you do anything is how you do everything, right? So we're really big on that. So we try to do everything at the highest level that we can. So one of the cool things that we did, we had to come up with, so typically when you do power windows, this is now blank because the original window has a crank here. Well, in order to cover the hole, but still make it look original, we modified the handles and basically put thread into the crank and then bolted it. So it's not functional, but it's still there. So it's still looks period correct, but this car has full power windows. It's awesome because from the driver's seat, you can roll them all up, roll them down. I mean, it's amazing, right? And all 4 doors are done in this fashion. But so just a cool little trick. Another cool thing that we did on this car is we added power locks and a power trunk. So the nice thing is there's a company that actually makes keyless entry systems specifically for these old school cars. The nice thing about that is they make up the brackets for the actuators with the rod and everything. Not the easiest thing in the world, but you remove the latch, mount the adapter which has the actuator, connect it, and then you run your wires. But then you have power locks now. Now this car is brand new. So for me, I'm really big on old schools, on making them convenient like a modern car. Power windows, power locks, backup camera, you know, all the Bluetooth, all the creature comforts. Because if the car has all those things, you will be more likely to drive your cool car instead of your regular car that has all those things, right? You go from your regular car to your cool car, and your cool car sucks other than it looks cool, right? I mean, it's a good looking car, but it has no power windows, has no power locks, has no Bluetooth, has no backup camera, has no CarPlay. Oh my God, the list just keeps going. So eventually you kind of lose interest, right? After it wears off. But if you had all those features, you would drive it more, just because it's like, okay, it's no different than driving your daily, except you get thumbs up and people love it, and you know, makes you smile. So keep that in mind whenever you have an old school. Spend a little money on making it, on giving yourself the creature comforts of your new car or your daily car. So this is a rubber boot. So in order to run the wires for the power windows, power locks, all that, we ended up putting in this rubber boot, which goes from the door to the frame, because this car doesn't have it. So, we again, there's a rubber boot like the factory would have, because a lot of times we see it just drilled holes and the wires are just taped and kind of shoved, but eventually they get destroyed. With the rubber boot, it keeps out the elements and keeps it functional for a really long time. So we also added a power trunk. Bam. So, and this is the monster. Just want to show you, this is insane. So it takes up basically the whole trunk, right? Now, and some stuff rattled loose from all the base, because this thing rocks. So, but we actually had to build the enclosure in 2 pieces. We'll show you some videos. So the enclosure will not fit, you can see, will not fit through the opening with just a single piece. And I'm telling you, we tried. We tried a lot, and it did not happen. We had to go back to our old school days where we've had to build boxes in 3 pieces. I mean, literally, we've had to build it where one goes in this way, one goes in this way, and then a center section. I mean, so this was similar to that. But if you see, there's a lot of notches, design, you know, to account for the trunk hinge. I mean, just, it's a lot of stuff. So, but it performs. I mean, these woofers are ridiculous. We're running a ton of power, and I mean, it just sounds fantastic. We chose this gear because the client wanted a really loud vehicle, right? So he was going for loud. And we went with all the particular components we went with were the best we felt for this application to accomplish what the client wanted. So a lot of times we talk about what's the best. What's the best for you and what's the best for your application. You don't want the best. You say you want the best, you want what's best for you, right? Because if it could be the best, but if it doesn't do what you're after, then it doesn't make sense, right? You know, so we definitely try to tailor the install, the gear, everything to the client, to the car and the client. And that's why we chose this. We have an additional battery back here. It's an excess power. And as you can see, same thing. All our wires are braided and dressed. If you take it out, you can see everything is labeled and properly identified, so there's no issue. Again, if somebody else works on this down the road, a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, whatever, they'll know, okay, red is power, black is ground. And then this enclosure, you're not taking this thing. I mean, you're not at all. So you would have to take everything out, pull the enclosure. It's a nightmare. So, and even the amps, right? So it's a super loud.
Visit our website at showtimeaudiochicago.com.